Well, we are live from New York. It's Pickleball, the Mental Edge. Well, actually, we're coming to you from Atlanta, but I just like how that sounds live from New York. I'm Coach B, Dotti Berry, and I'm a mind shift mental performance coach who works with everyday players like you and me, and also with elite players, including none other than Anna Bright, the #2 pickleball player in the world. And tonight, we're doing something different. Our conversation isn't about techniques and strategy, and it's not about hoping your skills magically show up under pressure. Each episode, our intention is simple: retrain your brain so that you can master your mind and master your game. And because your game doesn't change until you do. Now, tonight is our inaugural show, and I'm excited about that. Got a great guest. But before we go any further, I want to thank you for being here because I know your time is valuable and you got a lot of things to do. And I want you to know this: I truly believe in you. I believe in your capacity to develop the mental skills required to improve your game and enjoy it more. That is a great combination. And if you have a friend, go let them know about this conversation we're having. Now, pickleball performance isn't just about playing better, it's about playing with more clarity, more confidence, and more joy. Now, before we jump in, I do want to share something personal. When I come on screen, you're going to see I'm not broadcasting from my office in Washington State. I'm actually here in Atlanta, and I'll be sitting in my mom's chair where she normally lives. But she recently broke her hip and she's in rehab. And when we move her next Monday, she's going to be moving into memory care. And I share this because mental strength isn't built in perfect conditions. It's built on and off the court during days when life is inconvenient, when plans change, and when it would be easier not to show up. Showing up anyway, that's the mental edge. As we start a new year, most resolutions fail by February, not because people don't care, but because intention alone doesn't hold under pressure. Instead of resolutions, I choose a word or phrase as a framework each year. This year, mine is True North. True North is the inner direction that guides you when motivation disappears. And then life gets real. So here's your first invitation tonight. Before this show ends, choose a word or phrase that becomes your true north this year. Now, let's talk pickleball. You know, most players step on the court thinking, I'm here to play. They react. They chase balls. I react, I chase balls. We hope something works. But hope is not a strategy. You learn to construct points, and that's good. Learn patterns, placement, pace. That's necessary, and that's smart. But that's the physical infrastructure. But here's what nobody tells you. If your body knows what to do and your nervous system is in chaos, your strategy evaporates. That's where the mental edge lives. And that's why tonight we make a mind shift. We leave that mindset behind. That's static. We go from constructing points to cultivating points. Because intention without infrastructure collapses. But when you back intention with a system, mental fitness, emotional regulation, self-command of your mind, friction turns into momentum. The mental edge formula is simple. Intention plus infrastructure equals impact. That's your results and your success. So here's the question I'll be asking you on this show. Can you stay with that moment of friction long enough to grow? If you can, you're in the right place. So say it with me now, wherever you are. I'm ready to make the mind shift. Say it again. I'm ready to make the mind shift. Now, no worries if you miss scanning the QR code here. That's our access point into the mental edge. But let's go, as they say in pickleball. I'm ready. Are you? And this brings me to tonight's guest. I got to tell you, I'm so excited about having this guy. I'm truly delighted to welcome Dr. Joe Montgomery. Joe is the author of Your Brain on Pickleball, a book I consider the most complete, practical, and integrated resource available for players today. Joe is a retired psychologist with decades of experience in leadership and performance, and his work uniquely bridges brain science, strategy, movement, and decision-making under pressure. So, Joe, it is my honor right now. Drum roll. I got to give you a drum roll. I know that I've got to do that. But it's my honor to actually welcome you to our show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dotti. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Good.
So you're already having us do some imagery. We have the imagery of the drum roll.
Oh, well, while we're doing this, let me just do one thing over here. It's just too much fun not to. Let me just go down here a second because I love, let me see if I can find it. All right, hang on.
Hit the road, Judge, and don't you come back no more, no more, no.
Can you hear that?
More. Hit the road, Judge, and don't you come back no more. What you said?
Hey.
Hit the road, Judge, and don't you come back no more.
I got to get you loosened up, Joe.
You're always talking trash inside my brain. Saying I'm not enough, bringing
okay. Enough of that for now. But, that's a lot of fun to talk about the judge and the mental game, because as we know, that judge can be brutal at times. And you're going to help us understand that more tonight. I'm really excited that you are here. So, Joe, what I'd like to start off with before we get into your book, though, tell me your pickleball story. How did you get into this amazing game?
All right. Well, my background is in tennis. I played 4 years varsity tennis at the University of Washington. Then I played tennis for 40 years after that, very competitively, and until I got bad knees. And
Ah,
so I stopped playing tennis, but in 2017, I just chanced upon a pickleball game and got invited to start playing. And that's when I started. And I was really terrible. I was probably 2.5 level at best. But I very quickly started practicing just as I had done in tennis. And I played a few times a week. And I set up a backboard in my garage. And, I did 30 to 45 minutes of backboard practice every day. And pretty quickly, I was playing up at the 3.0 level and 3.5, 4.0. And then by, I'd say, early 2024, I'd made it up to about the 4.5 level. And I was really enjoying the strategy. And, I just love getting new strokes and improving my game. But
well, I can tell with those tennis skills that you have because I've had the pleasure of playing with you, and your touch is amazing. But here's the thing: you and I both know, tennis players when they first come into the game, they're usually called the bangers, because they
right,
haven't developed that soft touch yet because it is a different game.
right.
But once they get that soft game combined with those tennis strokes, I'm telling you what, it's unbelievable how good they are. And they transition more quickly, I think, to the sport than some other people who have not had that background. So that's
But
quite an interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
you think about Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Turning Point, The Tipping Point. He says that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become an expert. And, I had my 10,000 hours a long time ago in tennis, and a lot of it did carry right over into pickleball. So I was
Yeah.
very fortunate, and I do love the soft game. I had a very soft and controlled tennis game, and it helped me pick up the third shot drops and the dinks and so forth in pickleball.
Well, I can absolutely vouch for the fact that you understand the nuances of the game. But
Mhm.
let's get into your book. How about holding that book up? First of all, I
Yep.
mean, yeah, I can see it. Your brain on pickleball. Now, let's face it, that title is a takeoff on something we've heard before, but this is the good stuff. Your brain on pickleball. That is such a great title. How did you come up with that?
Uh, I don't know. After I decided to write the book, there were several titles that came up. I think it was I started off with pickleball on the brain, your brain on pickleball. But nobody liked that title. The publisher didn't like it. They didn't like the title your brain on pickleball either, but that's what I finally settled on. Because that's what it came down to. I had noticed that, as I was improving my game, people I had started playing with weren't really improving. They were kind of staying at the same level. And that was
Uh-huh.
kind of a mystery to me. Why aren't my friends improving? Well, and one characteristic of my buddies was that they would not practice. I could not talk to anyone. There's only a few people who would drill with me, and they were few and far between. So I was wondering, why won't people practice? And at the same time, I was doing some work as a mediator, some volunteer work, and I was doing some reading in cognitive functioning and cognitive biases, trying to understand why some mediations just didn't work very well. And then I had this breakthrough moment in the shower when it occurred to me that the reasons my friends weren't improving was due to some cognitive biases. For example, there's a cognitive bias called loss aversion, where let me backtrack. Our brains were designed for survival, for
Uh-huh.
surviving in a dangerous environment. They weren't designed for playing pickleball, as you can imagine. So one of the biases we have is loss aversion. We don't like to lose things. Historically, we don't like to lose food, resources, relatives, whatever. And that applies in pickleball. People don't like to lose playing time. They don't like to lose connection with their friends when they're playing competitive games. And practicing seems like a loss. So that's one reason people don't like to practice. Um, another issue with our brain functioning is we have two types of thinking. We have what's called self-one unconscious thinking, which is very
Hmm.
automatic. That's almost 99% of what we do is automatic based on habits and prior learning. So that's called self-one unconscious thinking. self-2 conscious thinking is much different. It's slower. We have far fewer resources. It takes a high level of energy to use self-2 conscious thinking. And our brain has a bias against using energy in self-2 thinking. It tries to conserve that energy. So when we're trying to practice, that takes a lot of conscious thinking, and our brain just fights it. So it's much easier to just get out and play the game, kind of be on autopilot, have fun.
So,
So
Joe, let
that's
me ask you. I like what you're saying, but I want to really break this down for our audience. When you're talking about this bias, what can we do in spite of this bias then? How can we positively impact our pickleball game?
right. Well, you may think since we're wired that way, we just have to give up and live with it. But that's not true. Now,
Mm-hmm.
before I get into that, I want to say that pretty quickly I was able to see that my buddies also were very resistant to feedback about their game. They were very resistant to getting coaching.
Mm-hmm.
There's more biases involved in there. Share those in a minute. Um, they were not introducing shots from higher level play into their game to raise it up. Like 3.5 players were just, they tend to be bangers. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like that for a bit myself. So you don't see them introducing those soft third shot drops or working on their dinks. They just like to stick with what they know. Another bias involved there. Um, I could see a lack of focus and concentration. Very difficult for people to stay focused throughout the game. You lose
Mm-hmm.
focus, then you start making mistakes. So that's another issue. And finally, when I'm talking in private with my friends, they had some limiting beliefs. Some of them thought that they had poor hand-eye coordination, or
Mm-hmm.
they were too old. Um, they weren't in good enough condition, too heavy. Whatever. They had some limiting beliefs, and in fact, they weren't true. So when I would try to say, well, really, you say you don't have the physical coordination, but look at your playing. You're very, very coordinated, very skilled. But they were very resistant to that. So for those are I think, the 5 areas that I saw that were keeping people back. And those correspond to the 5 areas that I've written about in the book. And each of them have a set of biases. Right now, so how do we overcome these biases? I think it's a process of awareness. Like if I'm aware that I'm reluctant to get feedback about my game, because of the way my brain tends to be wired, I can be much more open about seeking feedback. I can realize that it's very important when I finish a game, ask my friends, what could I have done better? Or, if I get coaching, I try to have coaching on a regular basis, although I'm resistant to it. But I know it's really important to improving my game to have a regular coaching session. Now, Dotti, I know you do the same thing. So it's an unusual person who's willing to face those biases and
Yeah.
step up and overcome them. But that's what the issue is awareness that we have those biases, and we can make a choice. And we can choose to do differently. It's our unconscious brain dominating when we let the biases win. But our
Yeah.
conscious brain can step in and take action too.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, one of the things I work with players all the time in my cell phone is noticing these saboteurs. Because if I don't know that they're there and I don't take time to be aware of them, then there's nothing I can do about them. But the
Right.
minute I can identify the saboteur that's happening, then I can become conscious about a choice that I want to make into what we call, and what I do is the SAGE response. And
Mhm.
so this can help us. I'm really interested in how you think this works when players plateau. And, what happens even though they drill, even though they do these things, what is really happening when players plateau? What do you think?
I can give you my take on that. First, regarding
Okay.
saboteurs, I just thought of a funny thing when you're saying that saboteurs are only effective. Like think of spies and international intrigue and things. Saboteurs are only effective if they're not known. But once
Yeah.
they're known, they're diffused. And similarly with us, once we know our saboteurs, we can diffuse them.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I want to address the issue of plateauing. There's a really interesting book that came out in 2024 by a guy named Lado Ditmar.
Uh-huh.
He was raised. His parents were circus performers, and that's what he planned to do with his career, was become a circus performer. So as a sort of young guy, he was trying to figure out what skill he wanted. Was it trapeze or you
Mm-hmm.
know the variety of things he could have done, but he settled on juggling, and he was terrible. And he practiced and he practiced. He practiced 12 hours a day or more. It was incredible what he did, but he was terrible. And it got so when he was practicing at in the circus grounds, the other performers started making fun of him. And they would come by and make jokes and scorn him and shame him. And even his parents were doing that. And he was just beside himself, unable to improve. It's just like I said, he had plateaued, but at a low level. So Ditmar selected some really top circus performers and sports performers, and he asked them what they did that led them to the top. And they couldn't tell him. They gave platitudes and do your best, do what you love. But what it is that with self-one unconscious thinking, you can't explain it because it's very complex learning and it's unconscious. You cannot explain using self-two talk what's in your self-one unconscious thinking. They couldn't tell him. So he did this research where he would go observe them practice, the top performers, and he looked at some who were not so good. And what he found was the top performers always did the hard things first.
Say that
Whatever's most
again.
difficult, pardon?
Say that again.
The top performers in their practice, which was extensive, they always did the hard things first when they had the most energy, and only near the end did they do any of the things that they knew how to do already. But compare that with Ditmar's approach. He was juggling and juggling. He would practice his routine. He would go until he stopped. Then he would start over. So what is he doing? He's practicing the easy things most. And hard things weren't getting any practice.
Yeah.
So he
That
shifted
sounds pretty
around and
familiar
started
with
doing,
pickleball players.
pardon?
That sounds pretty familiar with pickleball players.
Right, yeah, we like to do the easy stuff. If we're practicing, we like to go and do a bunch of dinks, hit some drives. But the really hard stuff, we put off till the end when we're too tired.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps us at a plateau. So in our practice, which once you overcome the bias of not practicing, then you've got to overcome the self-two energy conservation bias and put that energy out first, the hard things first. If you have a hard time with your top spin dinks, get out and do a bunch of top spin dinks. Do your third shot drops.
Well,
I think it's really difficult to reset when people are really smashing the ball at you. It's tough to reset those balls. So I like to set that practice early on and really work on that, plug out the energy.
Joe, I think the reason any of us might do that is we don't enjoy failing. But I tell people the most important thing you can do is fail fast and fail quick and keep failing over and over again until you uh, overcome that fear about failing. Because I mean, I'll see people drill
Mm-hmm.
and they drill and drill and drill, and then they go in the game and they won't implement it because they're
Right.
afraid of missing it. But that's
Right.
exactly what it takes is if you're going to drill, I like what you're talking about. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
drill the hard things first. Drill the things that you don't think you're good at. Fail, do them again. Fail, do them again, and then go implement them in your rec game and fail and do them again. Because the thought that you're going to get into a tournament and then voila, somehow by a crystal ball that's going to inhabit your brain and body, that you're going to have success, that's that bias. Convincing
That's right.
ourselves that, oh, this is going to work. It's not going to work.
Dottie, there's a lot of research that backs up exactly what you said. There's a really interesting book called Bounce by Matthew Syed. And he looked at some of the research on top performers like ice skaters, figure
Uh-huh.
skaters. And he found that the top figure skaters fell much more frequently than the medium or the low ranked skaters. They walk around black and blue all the time because they're trying the really hard jumps and they're falling all the time. Or, the tennis players, they're working on the hard shots, they're making a lot of mistakes. And they realize that it's through those mistakes that you learn the high level skills.
You know, Joe, you're talking about skating. I have a friend that's a blind ice skater, and he's a coach also.
Mhm.
And Stosh is amazing. Uh, Obviously, he has overcome that fear of doing things. He goes out there anyway. And of course, he's going to fall down, he's going to fail, but he is masterful in his skating. It's so beautiful to watch him, and he's an inspiration to me. But, you know, what do you think that the brain does under pressure that most players misunderstand since we're talking
Mhm.
about this?
Dottie, could I back up just briefly?
Yeah, sure.
I
Uh-huh.
want to follow up on the mistakes issue. If you think about what goes on in your brain when you're learning,
Hmm.
start off with self-2 conscious learning, you learn the rules, you learn the basics, and gradually that becomes more automatic and shifts into your self-2 unconscious thinking. But what's going on is you're creating neuronal links in your brain, new connections between the neurons, and
Yeah.
that only happens when you force your brain to make those connections. Like in ancient times, you would learn new things as survival skills, and your brain really only makes those connections when it's forced to do that. So when you're making
Hmm.
mistakes, your brain realizes that it's got to shape up. It's got to do better to get doing what you want. So it says you're practicing your dinks or your third shot drops. You're getting more neuronal connections in your brain. The area in your brain devoted to pickleball gets bigger and bigger because there are more connections and neurons involved. And you know what? Your ability to play has increased because there's more neurons
Mm.
involved, more
Yeah.
connections. So your ability has increased by your practice. So it's
Yeah.
really important to know that as you improve your pickleball game, you're not limited by a set of abilities. Your abilities
Yeah.
increase all the time. So I think that's
That,
one of the key things to keep in mind as you're improving your game, that you're building brain area dedicated to this, and your abilities are increasing.
yeah,
So
what you're talking about is so true. When we master these physical aspects and we improve, we're actually rewiring the neural pathways. And I tell people the same thing has got to happen in the mental game. For some reason, people think they can read a book on the mental game and that suddenly they'll be smarter and that their pickleball IQ will go up. But research has shown that insight, which we get from books like yours, which is great, but people aren't going to get better from just reading your book. They're going to get better from going out and implementing what you have in your book. So that 20% is insight and 20% of our success. But the other 80% is actually taking what we learn in those books and implementing it. And
mhm,
for the mental game, that's a struggle for some people. And that's why I say, intention plus infrastructure equals impact. If we leave out that middle component, whether it's in the physical or the mental, we do not get the impact, the results, and the success that we want. We can have great intentions, we can have goals, we can have results, but they just evaporate. They go bye bye down that river, and we go,
mhm,
where'd that go? And that
mhm.
becomes frustrating for people. But you have laid out what I like, Joe, is a specific plan. Like if you want to go from a 3-0 to a 3-5, if you want to go from a 3-5 to a 4-0, if you want to go from a 4-0 to a 4-5, you've got a step by step way in your book that you outline for people that will help them if they go and again they implement it. They can't just like, here's my phone now, pretend I'm reading your book and put it to my brain and think that
Right.
it's going to get there through
Mhm.
osmosis. So, what do you think if people get your book now? Hold that book up again because I want them to go get that book on Amazon. Your brain
I
on
do too.
pickleball. Yeah, yeah. I want them to go get that. That is your pickleball Bible right there. I got to tell you, you want to read that over and over and over again. So, when you look at it with your book, what do you think is the most important thing people could get out of your book? Because there's a lot in it. Let's face it, there is so much in it.
There's
If you had to
probably too
pick out
much.
one
There's
thing.
probably too much in it. I really crammed it full of research and fun facts.
No, I think it's great. It's a resource. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Mhm.
It's got so much information in it. But as somebody reads through it and then they go, "Oh my gosh, there's so much." Uh, what do you think are a couple of the key parts in the book if they just, wanted to go and get the quickest results? Let me say that.
All right, sure. For the long term, you might think of it as like you have a platform with some little levers underneath it, and
Okay.
there's 5 or 6 levers, and they have to do with practice, with getting feedback and coaching, improving your mental focus, incorporating higher level skills, um, and addressing any limiting beliefs that you have. And that's pretty hard to change limiting beliefs. That's long
Hmm.
term strategy. But for something you could implement almost immediately, I'd say it's thinking about if you're in a competitive situation, your sympathetic nervous system gets triggered and you go into fight, flight, freeze situation.
Hmm.
You'll feel anxious, you'll feel fearful like you're in a tough competitive match in a tournament. It can be scary. So what
Yeah.
happens? You're scared. You start thinking negative thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm going to fail. Your fight, flight, freeze physiological reactions kick in. You have muscle tension. Your heart starts racing. Your body is flooded with cortisol and hormones. You get shaky from those hormones. And another thing that happens is your prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain, where you
Hmm.
think, that gets turned off when you have fight, flight, freeze going on. Because from a historical perspective, if you see a lion in the path, you don't want to be thinking about it. You just want to be getting out of there. So your
Yeah.
brain turns off when you've got fight, flight, freeze going on. So all of those things, if they kick in when you're playing pickleball, they just destroy your game. You cannot play when you're shaky and your brain's turned off. You're just going to make mistakes and do silly things. So instead, I think it's really important to shift to the other side. Then we have a fight, flight, freeze reaction to danger, but our brains are hardwired with a thrive response when things are really good. And it's been called the broaden and build response by Barbara Fredrickson, who wrote a book a few years ago called Positivity. And she shows that there's this physiological change in your body as your affect, as your emotional level gets higher and higher, more positive. Our intelligence increases, our muscle tension gets lower, and we become more able to make fine motor actions. We're more creative. We're better able to have social relationships with people. We're less likely to get into conflict. And these are just as physiological as your stress response. So this is the broaden and build side is what we want to get into when we're playing pickleball. So how do you do that? A couple of things. One is that it's important to have some positive thoughts. You think, well, I can do this. I'm feeling good. Be
Hmm.
aware of your emotions. If you're out there playing, feel gratitude that you're out. You don't have an injury. You're feeling good. You feel gratitude for being out there. And then there's some purely physical things you can do. For example, if you breathe between points, sometimes you get out of breath because they're not breathing during a point. Take some deep breaths. As you breathe deeply, the lungs expand and they push into the vagus nerve, which controls that broaden and build reflex. So deep breathing triggers the broaden and build reaction. And particularly if you breathe through your nose, it really does that well for you.
And so this gets us into our parasympathetic system, nervous
Exactly,
system.
exactly.
And we've
Broaden
had a
and
lot of
build is
great
your parasympathetic
yeah,
reaction.
yeah. We've had a
Yeah.
lot of great discussions about that.
Mhm.
I wrote an article on this and I find it fascinating. And a lot of what I teach my students and clients, including Anna Bright. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're the number two pickleball player in the world or one of us everyday people like us. The same things are true. I'm giving them skills to work on where they can get out of their head and into their body because the game is not played in the head. Even though we talk about the mental game, it's kind of a oxymoron almost.
Mhm.
The game is played in the body. The body already knows what to do. It's our thinking and our brain that gets in the way of it. And when that happens, that's when we go into this fight, flight, or freeze mode. And then, we just don't even know what to do. So I love that you're talking about this sympathetic system and the parasympathetic and what you call is that broaden and build pathway. Yeah.
Mhm. Right. Positive
So
emotional pathway.
yeah. So I just want to you've broken this down so good, but let me ask you this. What you see is all there is. I had to look over it because I can't, I have to go Wysiati.
But
Talk
Wysiati,
to me. Yeah.
Wysiati.
Talk to me a little bit about this that you had in your book.
Wysiati, what you see is all there is a cognitive bias. And it's kind of humorous. It's Daniel Kahneman, he's a Nobel Prize winner. He came up with this a few years ago in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Uh-huh.
And what I've applied it to is if you're, say, a given level, say a 3.5 player, um, what you see is all there is. You think that all there is are drives and returns and a few lobs and some volleys.
Uh-huh.
Whatever you're using at that level, you think that's all there is. You don't
Okay.
think outside the box. It doesn't. The bias is it doesn't really occur to you to think, well, what else could I be doing, or what additional shots are there that higher level players are using that I'm not? We just want to use what we have in our toolbox. So we
Okay.
want to. That's what bangers do. They just keep hitting and hitting, and it's very hard for them to let go of that mindset and try. Watch the 3.5 level players. It's very hard for them to throw in a drop shot. It's just they're very resistant to it.
Well, I mean, I think what happens is they haven't even practiced the skill of the drop shot. So who wants
Right?
to do something in a game that they really don't even know how to do yet? And so it goes back to what you've talked about is getting on the wall, drilling, doing the various things. And we know that even when we do that, we're going to have to be willing to let it miss some. If
Right.
it goes high, I mean, gosh, you see the pro players hit some high ones, but they're ready to reset that and dig it out is the difference. We can't always that touch on that drop shot is challenging. That's why we have to go and we have to practice it. And
Right.
just
Right.
many people at that level have simply not practiced that and don't drill enough. So you have to set this scenario in a sequence where you begin drilling, you drill correctly, you're willing to make mistakes. You then take that, you go in and you implement it into rec play where you make mistakes. You come back, you just use that as a data point. That's what I call errors. I said, that's a data point. I go, let me get curious about that one. How did I miss it? Did I miss it in the
Mhm.
net or did I miss it off to the right or left? Or
Mhm.
how did I miss that shot? And then that gives me information that informs me on how I can then go back, drill, get coached, all of these things that make us a better player. Yeah,
I remember
quite fascinating.
when I was learning a third shot drop. I remember one time going out in 45 minutes. I just spent on third shot drops down the line, cross court, and by the end of that, a few days of doing that, I was getting pretty darn good at third shot drops. And I
Yeah.
started pulling them into my game, and it was just making me laugh. How many points I was winning off the bangers by hitting these third shot drops. It was just pretty hilarious, really. But if I hadn't done that practice, I would not have been willing to do it in the game.
Yeah.
It was very rewarding to have that practice under my belt and go out and see it work. I did. It was really fun.
Well, we hear so many people talk about the game has changed. Let's face it. There's a lot more third shot drives than there used to be, but the fifth
Right.
shot drop is still in the game. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's how people in the pros move up. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't move up, they go slowly as a serving team advancing towards the non-volley zone line. They don't move up there too quickly because they know they got to be ready to dig that out and reset it if their drop shot, even at the pro level, is not dropping where they need it to go on that fifth. So they're not going to run in on it. But I think, having the confidence to do this, um, yeah. So when you go and you look at your book and you're trying to decide what parts you're going to go out and implement first on the court. You've read your book. what then? What's next when they go to the court? What's their number one thing they need to do?
Well, I think what we were just talking about was staying in broaden and build mode. It's something you can implement. You don't have to practice to do this. It's mainly an awareness thing.
Yeah.
Being aware of your emotional state on the court, taking breaths between points. There's also some drills you can use during the point. Dotti, you and I have talked about the bounce hit drill. So you're playing in the middle of a point. Timothy Galway, years ago in his book, The Inner Game of Tennis, recommended this drill. So as you see the ball coming towards you, it drops into the court. You mentally say bounce as it bounces. And as it hits your paddle, you mentally say hit. Bounce it. You have to be conscious to do that. And that has a tremendous impact on your focus and your timing, your footwork. It's amazing what that drill will do for you.
Yeah.
And you can just decide to do it and start doing it. That's
Yeah,
okay.
my experience has been that having conscious awareness is not something that happens without practice. And that's why I coach and teach players on mental performance, because it does not just come natural, just like a shot does not come natural. It takes daily, moment by moment practice. And if
Mhm.
people don't do that daily, moment by moment practice, nothing changes. They're not any more aware when they go out on the court than they were before they went out there.
Mhm.
So unless they really have something that teaches them how to learn to notice the saboteurs, be aware of them, then consciously shift in that moment. If they're not doing that on a daily basis, they're just going to walk out on the court as they always do. And maybe after they finish, they go, "Oh, I was going to try to be aware of that." And you just can't do that without practice. I mean, it's fine to say, "Hey, I want to be more aware," but it literally, in my experience in working with players, takes that daily practice and implementing it. And that's what I really enjoy doing, is helping them with that mental aspect. Now you've got a lot about the mental game, and you've got a lot about, just skills and things they need to do and work on to level up. What do you think is the best mental tip that you have in your book?
I think I have shared it already, and that's staying in the broaden and build framework. Uh, but
Still?
but I really like the breathing between points, and
Yeah.
I really like maintaining the awareness to do the bounce hit drill. Those are
Uh-huh.
things that are relatively easy to implement and will have an immediate impact on your game. A third thing, now I think Dottie and I have had a disagreement about this particular point, but I think many people are unaware of how many errors they're making in a game. I go out
Uh-huh.
and see many of my friends are making 12, 13 or more errors
Uh-huh.
in a single game,
Yep.
and it's very hard to overcome that. And even if some of those are on your service points, but if you're counting and aware of how many errors you're making, you can drop that down. I think you can set a goal of 4 or fewer errors per game. You're immediately going to be a better player by reducing those errors. Now, why are we making so many errors? There's several hypotheses for that, but I think there's a delay of gratification issue that the
Uh-huh.
bangers really like to hit the ball hard and win the point immediately. It's immediate gratification if you win that point,
Yeah.
rather than set the ball up, hit some consistent shots, wait for the long term. That's delay of gratification, and
Yeah.
that's a lot harder to do mentally. So if you can just delay that need for immediate gratification, to reduce the number of errors, your game is immediately better. And I think
Yeah.
so many errors are made by overhitting.
Yeah.
If you have an intention, go into the game with the intention that you're going to hit each shot, each ball in. Even as the ball is coming towards you, I work on this. I say, I'm going to hit this next shot in. It's going to go in.
Yeah.
And it's very effective in getting the ball in. It has a huge
Yeah,
impact on your game.
I like what you do by looking at how can I reduce the unforced errors. And I got me one of those clickers that you have to keep track of things, and it just gives a way of taking a different look on it,
Mhm.
raising my conscious awareness when I click on an unforced error. We're not talking about things where we try something, implement, make a mistake.
Right.
We're just talking about an unforced error.
Mhm.
It means a missed serve, a missed return, a ball that, we really have the capability of hitting, and we hit it in the net. So I think all those things are good for us to become more conscious, more aware about our game. Um, so one of the things as we wind up here, I just want to, bring up for people and simplify for everyone listening. Uh, it's not that complicated, but it does require intention, and it does require infrastructure, because without an infrastructure, without what you're talking about, that we go do, become aware of our unforced errors, do these specific things in order to level up and get better. Without having that type of infrastructure, the impact that we want to make, the results we want, the success we want are just elusive. It's like water running through our hands. And the same thing is true of the mental game. People want to be better, and they get frustrated and they go read another book. And I say to them, I said, because you can't read another book on the mental game and become more mentally proficient. You can't read another book on pickleball, even one like yours. It'll be great if they read it, but they've got to read it, and then they've got to go back and do what's in the book consistently. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency, because that infrastructure, that middle component, has systems and processes. And systems are nothing more, as James Clear reminds us, of daily habits that we do consistently. And when we do those, then we get the impact that we're looking for. So I'm delighted that you've been with us. I know, Joe, there's so much more that we could cover, but we kind of want to move on here. But raise your book back up there. I want to
Thanks for
thank
having me,
you.
Dottie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, this
It's been
is
a lot of
great.
fun talking. A lot of fun talking about the mental side of
Hey,
pickleball.
we could talk all day about this, couldn't we? I
It'd be
mean,
fun.
it's just great. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We're going to have more shows. The Pickleball Mental Edge will be bringing different people in to talk about their books, their philosophy on the mental game. So please stay tuned. And I'm going to end it up with some music here at the end, because after all, we've been talking about mistakes and, well, just stay tuned and listen to this song. But thanks again, Joe. And I want to just remind you that you can get that on Amazon. So hold it up one more time so that they see it, Joe. And you go get that book right now. So I'm gonna just kind of finish up here, because I want to just thank everybody for coming tonight. And if you enjoyed this, just go share it with a friend. If you're watching it as a recording, if your friend sent you the link, well, just thank them. They care about you and they care about your mental game. That's good. But here's what I want you to take with you and remember. Improvement, progress doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from training differently. It comes from building systems that support you when pressure shows up. And that's the mental edge. That's what I teach. And that's how you retrain your brain. And if you want to continue this work, you'll see a QR code on your screen. That's your access point to go deeper and continue this work. And remember, as you step back onto the court, success isn't created in big moments. It's created in the moment by moment mind shifts. So as you leave tonight, remember this: your next breakthrough will not come from intensity. It will become from consistency, from the moment by moment mind shifts you practice daily. So the mental edge framework, again, is intention. That's your goals and the results you want. The infrastructure, the processes and systems, and those systems are simply a collection of daily positive habits. And then the impact is what you get, the success that you desire. So now I'm going to come over and find some good music to play as we end up here. I've got to scroll down and find this one. It's really good. Oh, here we go.
I'm sexy when I make mistakes, owning every move I make. I learn, I grow, I elevate. sexy when I make mistakes. Owning every move I make. I learn, I grow, I elevate. I'm sexy when I make mistakes. Mistakes I date and not defeat. They make my journey feel complete. Forget perfection, I choose play. Mistakes, they're my superpower today. I'm sexy when I make mistakes. I rewrite every rule they make. I stumble, bold, I don't erase. I'm sexy when I make mistakes. I'm sexy when I make mistakes. Oh yeah, yeah. Boy, yeah. I stumble, bold, I don't erase. I'm sexy when I make mistakes. I'm sexy when I make
Thanks, everybody.
mistakes. Owning every move I make. I learn, I grow, I elevate. I'm sexy when I make mistakes. On the quarter in my mind, I slip, I trip, but I'm a
All right, until next time, this is the Pickleball Mental Edge.